they'd be like, well, I want half of your money kind of thing, like just because you hurt my feelings. That's
Yeah.
my, that's my, like, I'm going to get that. That's my way to pay back sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Hi guys, welcome back to another finance discussion with Skilled Finances. My name is Lindy and this is Tando. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad to have you here with us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us also on our socials, that's at Skilled Finances. And make sure you listen to our podcast that's on all your podcast platforms. That's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you'll find us there.
Yep. And today we are going to talk about one of the D words that a lot of people avoid.
Is that debt?
No, we're not talking about debt today. Neither we're talking about death.
Right.
But we are talking about divorce. Now, divorce is one of those things that I feel like unless you've been through it, or you
Yeah.
know somebody very close to you who's been through it, it's like a word that we try and avoid, saying, or it's like a topic we avoid talking about.
True.
Now, we've been married for a number of years ourselves, but it's something that we talk about, I guess, openly. We don't feel like we can't have that conversation. I feel like it's a grown-up conversation to have. But specifically, what we're actually going to be looking at is talking about prenups.
Right.
Because prenuptial agreements are one of those things that, they only really apply when it comes to divorce. And the truth of the matter is, 4 out of 10 couples, married couples this is, end up getting a divorce.
Right.
And the average divorce age is around 40 years old, somewhere there, 40 to 45. But 4 out of 10 couples, that's a
lot, because that's
right?
almost half,
And
isn't it?
that's those who are married,
Yeah.
not like every single relationship, because not everyone gets married. So those who have then walked down the aisle and did the whole marriage thing, 4 out of 10 of them end up actually splitting up and getting a divorce along the way. And most people, you find that they get remarried and stuff like that, and they
Right.
they have ex partners who they used to be married to, and it's really more common that you might think or realize. And that's why we thought, having this conversation about prenup is actually quite important, because, we're on this journey of building wealth,
Yeah.
of making money, and like building our financial lives in the way that we want to. But then how do we make sure that on this journey, we consider the risks, should I say, of being a married couple and actually ending up getting a divorce? Should you get a prenup, or are you against prenups? What are your thoughts? That's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
So I guess before we start, it'll be good to let people know what prenups actually are.
Sure.
So from your
Sure.
understanding, what is a prenup?
So from my understanding, a prenup, or the full word is prenuptial agreement, is really an agreement before you get married,
Yeah.
about what's going to happen should you get a divorce, particularly with things like financial assets,
Yeah.
or any assets that could be converted into cash and money.
Right.
So property, businesses, investments, debts, inheritance, all of these things. You basically agree upfront before you get married about should
Right.
we get a divorce,
What will happen to those
what will
things?
happen to those things,
Yeah.
basically. And in my mind, that's basically the idea of what a prenup is.
So before we get to the interesting question, which is, what are your thoughts on prenups? Do you feel like couples should get prenups? Or, should couples get prenups?
It depends.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer to that. It depends. It depends on your relationship. It depends on what you're bringing to the table. It depends, like, what kind of money do you have? How deep are your pockets? And how
Right.
deep are your partner's pockets? And everything like that. I think it's really depends. So let's just think of a scenario where both couples have assets bringing to the table. So I'm coming into our marriage with investments and with properties. Or you're coming
Yeah.
into it with properties and businesses.
Yeah.
Should we get a prenup at that stage? Potentially. I mean, like, at the end of the day, these are my properties that I'm bringing into
Yeah.
this equation, and I've kind of built them over the years by myself. So, should we split up? Maybe I think it's unfair that you get a share of my property when you had no part to play in acquiring those
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah.
But that's my thought. If both couples are bringing something to the table, when I say something, I'm talking about assets here, so financial assets. They should think about it. Let me say it that
Yeah.
way. I'm not saying they should get it, but they should at least have the
Think about
discussion.
it.
What about you?
I think I completely agree with you, because I feel like we have to take emotions and feelings out of
Let's
this
do that.
because, yes, we all want our
Absolutely.
relationships to work. We all want our marriages to work. No one goes into it thinking, I'm getting married to this person for 2 months or 2 years and we're going to be done. Everyone wants it to work. So take away the feelings, take away the emotions. If you're thinking about it logically, imagine if you've worked for years to then build up your assets, as you were saying. Well, if your assets are like properties and stuff, and then your partner's also worked hard and has his own stuff, right? I personally don't think there's anything wrong if then people are like, actually, let's get a prenup because these are my things that I came in with. These are your things that you came in with. And that's okay. But it also depends on the couple because some couples will be like, yeah, definitely, I'm for the prenup. However, some couples will come into it and then they'll say, do you know what? What's yours is mine. I get it. We were two different people. We built separately. And yeah, but now when we're coming together, we're just viewing it as one unit. And they may come in and just say, do you know what? We won't have a prenup. And at the end of the day, whatever happens, if we are to go our separate ways, we'll just split everything 50-50. But I also understand that there's some couples where things won't work out maybe as easy or as swiftly as that. So I feel like I get it from both points of views. I absolutely get it. I get it when people say, actually, no, I don't want one. We are one. And I get it when people say, no, actually, I've come in with so many things. We need to get one.
See, but that's a perfect example. But what about where would you get a prenup if you were bringing assets into our marriage and I was bringing nothing?
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting question.
Would you want to get a prenup? Let me say it that way.
Would I want to get a
Yeah.
prenup? Do you know, I feel like we've come from a society, or not even the society, the fact that we are Christians, right?
Okay.
So we've come into it already knowing and being taught that actually you are one. When you're married, you're one. It doesn't matter what you're bringing in, and it doesn't matter how much you're bringing in, you are one. So I think because that's how I've been brought up, I would be of the mindset to say, "Do you know what? It's okay. We are one. We will work together." And then obviously, God forbid, if something was to then happen down the line, I would then, I think some people may think that I'm naive, but then I'd be one to think that actually we would split it 50-50. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's
Right.
where I'm coming from. I think the being a Christian for me
Yeah.
plays a very big part in it. So
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
love to believe that, you know what, we're going into it, and I'm one of those people that goes into marriage knowing and believing that I'm going into it and that's it. It's not going to
Right.
end. It's a till death do us parts
Right.
kind of situation. But I get the people that will be like, no, you need to be logical about it and take emotions out of it. What if? But
Okay.
I'd be one to
Okay.
just be like, yeah, let me just go in.
I don't know, you know. No, I hear what you're saying because
Yeah.
what you're saying, we're talking about values here. And
Yeah.
when it comes to values, we share the same values in that sense that, you know, we came into our marriage with the mindset of till death do us part,
Yeah.
and with every intention to make it work, and we're still making it work basically.
Yeah.
So that's the heart and the mind that we're putting into it. But if I'm to put myself in a because, you know, full disclaimer, we got married when we were really young, so I was 24, yeah, you
I
were
was 22.
22,
Yeah.
somewhere there. And so at that stage, like, we haven't had any chance or
Yeah.
even time to build any financial assets. You know, you were just graduated from
Yeah.
university. I had just landed like my first real adult job type of thing. So we were still very early in our like financial building stage. So to be fair, we kind of really didn't bring any financial assets into our
Yeah.
marriage from that perspective. But if I'm to then imagine we're meeting today or we're getting married today
Yeah.
with where we are now.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing my financial assets into the table, and maybe let's just say you don't have any. I It would cross my mind. I'm not saying I would say let's get it, but
Yeah.
it would cross my mind to simply ask the question that, okay, how would I feel?
Yeah.
Should this marriage not work? How would I feel with splitting what I'm bringing into this marriage
Yeah.
50-50?
Yeah.
Because that I can definitely understand when people might say that sounds unfair because these are things that
That you worked for.
I worked
Absolutely.
for. I put my time and money into building these assets in my life, and then we get together, it doesn't work, and then you claim half of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, or maybe more than half. Who knows? But
Yeah,
like,
because that could happen.
that could happen.
Yeah.
But like, you getting some sort of share from those things, for some people, they're like, that's not fair. So I'm going to
Get one.
consider getting a prenup.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I feel like if I was to take the emotions and the
Of
values and
course.
all of that
Of
out of it,
course.
I definitely understand why people then get it. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
if you've worked
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
it, you're well within your rights to then
Sure.
want that thing back because it's yours. You've worked for it.
Yeah. But to your point, I definitely, I personally wouldn't get one because I am of the mindset of what's mine is yours.
Yeah.
When marriage comes in play, and that's kind of how I was raised. So I personally wouldn't then get one because I don't have a thing of these are my things that I'm bringing to the
Right.
marriage, but they remain mine.
Yeah.
These are things that I'm bringing to the marriage, and look, they're now ours. So I would
Yeah.
give you the keys to all the properties. I would give you the access to all of my investments, and then,
Right.
in fact, I would then say these are ours. This
Yeah.
is what I've built over the years, getting ready for marriage.
Yeah.
And now that we are married, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what
Yeah.
you've married into. Kind of like the whole scenario where, if you kind of think back in the olden days where like somebody marries into the royal family.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what you've married. Your price just went up because you've married into
Yeah.
the royal family. Even though you may not have been born
In the royal
in the royal
family.
family, you
Right.
just automatically become part of, I guess, the inheritance, so to speak,
Yeah.
of the royal family because you're married into that
Yeah.
family, sort of thing. So that's kind of how I see it from that perspective of, yeah, I wouldn't get a prenup from
Yeah.
that perspective.
No, I definitely think, like you said, values has a lot to play in it,
Absolutely.
and like emotions has a lot to play in it. So I get it. I also know, like, there are people out there that will then say, do you know what? If we get married, we both came in with what we came in with, right? We'll won't get a prenup.
Sure.
However, if unfortunately the relationship ends, what they would then say is, okay, you get to take what you came in with, and I get to take what I came in with. However, whatever we've built whilst we were together,
Okay. Yeah.
that we will split 50-50.
Okay.
And I guess
Yeah.
that's a different way to look at it, where it's like, okay, maybe there's no prenup coming in, but
Sure.
then they're of the
Sure.
understanding that whatever they've built whilst in the relationship, they're splitting 50-50.
Of course, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. But we're saying these things like it's easy and it's equal.
Yeah.
We, at the end of the divorce is just one of those ugly things.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because of the nature of heartbreak or the nature of just disappointment and
Yeah.
anger and frustration and all of those things, you may then find that people then don't approach it rationally.
Yeah.
They'd be like, well, I want half of your money, kind of thing. Like, just because you hurt my feelings,
Yeah.
that's my, like, I'm going to get that. That's my way to pay back,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I think it's maybe actually getting a prenup protects you from that emotional disaster, so to speak, that can often come with people who are separating.
Yeah.
Because it can happen.
So I like how you mentioned the fact that if you think about someone who marries into a royal family, it's like their price goes up and they probably immediately inherit some of the things that their partner already had. So it happens a lot with celebrities where you
Sure.
find that maybe one person marries into a family that's really well off, and they could be well off themselves, but the price might be going higher because of who they're marrying.
Sure.
So for instance, as of recently, if you think of Brooklyn Beckham and his wife, Nicola Peltz's marriage, so they actually got a prenup, and she had a net worth of about, was it?
Isn't basically he comes from, obviously, the Beckham family.
Yeah.
The Beckham family are millionaires.
Yeah.
And then
She was a
Nicola Peltz,
billionaire.
her family is a billionaire.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah,
Basically.
absolutely
That's just
different.
different levels.
Yeah.
And a very different financial perspective. I think to be fair, I think the Beckhams are like 500,000 net worth, somewhere there. And then the Peltz family are like 1 point something billion. So it's
You
almost
mean
like
half a billion?
half
Not
a,
half a million.
half a billion, sorry, 500,000,000, exactly. Whereas, it basically will be the equivalent of somebody who is in a middle class getting married to a millionaire.
Right.
So, something like that, where it's like, okay, you're getting married into a very different financial class.
Yeah.
Social class as well, if you want to throw that in there. But you're just getting married into a different situation. Basically, and that's what happened in that scenario.
So in that scenario, what do you think of their prenup? Because I actually thought, do you know what? I get it. Like,
Sure.
I actually get why they did it.
Sure.
And I completely understand. There may be some people that are like, no, but you get married, it doesn't really matter. But
No, but
I
the
get
unique
it.
situation about their position is that it's not it's not the people who are getting married, it's not their wealth.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. It's the wealth of the parents.
Right.
So, I mean, fair enough, may have got some of their own individual wealth that they've built, but that millionaire, billionaire status is parents.
Right.
So, uh, the Beckham wealth is obviously David and Victoria, and then Nicola Peltz's wealth is her dad, who is in the financial industry. He does something in that space, but that's the parents' wealth.
Right.
So it's not like what we were saying earlier, which is the couples getting married are the ones who have the wealth.
Right.
It's more like the families where they come from
Are the
are
ones
the
with
ones who
the
are
wealth.
wealthy
Yeah.
and the ones with the wealth. And so, you do find situations where one partner is marrying into a family that has a very higher income or net worth, should I say,
Yeah.
than where they come from.
Yeah.
And in that situation, prenup is then not just about the couple. If you think about it, it's
It's about
literally
the family,
a family
like protect
affair.
the family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a whole family game. And that's, for me, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you. Listen, we obviously right now, think about it, a majority of the people are like first generation wealth builders. Let me
Right.
say it that way, where we're the ones building the wealth for our future generations and etc. etc. Now, imagine me and you put in the work, we build the wealth for our children,
Right.
and our children grow up 20 years from now, they meet somebody, they're getting married, and that person that they're getting married to has less financial wealth than we've built.
Right.
Would you then say to your child, listen, you need to get a prenup?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think I would actually.
Yeah?
Like that's why I'm saying I get why they did what they did.
I'm not going to lie, me 100% would.
Because you're absolutely protecting the wealth of your family, right?
100%.
It's completely different, right? If it was Brooklyn's money
Exactly.
and Nicola's money,
Exactly.
then they can do as they please because it's
You can do whatever you
it's
want.
their marriage and
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
However, when you're now talking about family and you get family involved, I completely understand why people then go down the route of no, actually, you need to get the prenup to protect the
I'm not
family
working as
and
hard
yeah.
for some person to come and marry my
Yeah,
child,
yeah.
divorce them a few years later,
And then take the money.
jet off with some of my money. No, that's not happening. That's not
Absolutely.
happening.
So in that case, I completely get it. And I'd probably be that parent that's like, yeah, you need to just protect yourself. Like
Either that, or you then like prevent
or
almost
put
like
certain things in place, even if it doesn't go to the point of it being a prenup. I'm sure there's certain things you can put in place in terms of money. So yeah, completely.
Yeah, so you can put things on your will maybe and say, okay, if this and if that then happens, then okay,
This
don't give them
happens.
money or whatever, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, you could put things in place, but I absolutely definitely think that if anything, because when it comes to marriage, yes, it's two people getting married, but it's
Right.
really families marrying families, and it's family connecting to family.
Yeah.
And that's very prevalent, for example, in our example where we come from Zimbabwe, which is a Southern African country. And when it comes to getting married, like you find that family have a huge say in some families have a huge say in who you marry and how you marry and stuff like that. Whereas some families don't have a say in who you marry, but then they have a say in things like
The
way
wedding.
the wedding,
Yeah,
the way
or
you
what
get married,
happens.
what happens.
I normally like to call it your wedding is your family's wedding.
It literally is.
As long as you're not paying for it by yourself, it's your family's
Yeah,
wedding. It's a
literally.
very different story. If you're funding all of it, then yeah, that's
Then
your
you
wedding.
kind of got some leverage.
Yeah.
But if they're like, oh no, we'll pay for this, we'll pay for that. Next thing you know,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
pay for
coming
this.
with
It's got
something.
strings attached
Yeah.
and X, Y, Z. It ends up becoming a family event essentially.
And I
Yeah.
think, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever it is, for some of us, we've been brought up to see a prenup as a bad thing.
Definitely.
Like I've always thought of a prenup as a bad thing up until recent. Like as I've grown older, I've started to not really see it as a bad thing, but and try to understand why someone would get it. It doesn't mean they don't love you, but I get them wanting to protect their financial status or their finances. But we had always been brought up to look at it as a bad thing. Like, oh, that thing is a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? But I guess now when you see the different situations, or even like looking at social media or reading the news, and you're hearing of people that get divorced and sort of like the messy situations that they go through in the divorce, you then begin to say, do you know what? I understand why some people are for it, but I also can also understand why some people are not. So yeah.
And one of the reasons I just thought about as well, that I might actually consider getting a prenup. Obviously, this one applied to me, but for some couples, they are getting remarried after having had kids with somebody else,
Yeah.
for example. And so you may find yourself in a situation where actually that person is building wealth or has got some sort of property or something that they want to leave for their child
Right.
that they already have before the marriage,
Yeah.
but they want to make sure that
It goes
it goes
directly
to
to
that
the child.
child
Yeah.
and it won't be caught up in a mess because of a divorce.
Yeah.
And that's another valid reason, right? To be like, okay, I have a property or I have this investment or I have this money that I've set aside for my child.
Yeah.
Me and you are going to get married, fine, but
But
let's get a
this.
prenup to protect
Yeah.
that so that my child gets
Yeah.
that. Because if we get a divorce, I don't want you to start claiming that. Now, the thing about it is this: when you're in a marriage or when you're getting married, obviously you're going to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Of course, I'm not going
Yeah.
to do that. But you just never know how you will feel
Anything can happen.
should
Yeah.
you get a divorce.
Yeah.
Like, you just haven't got a clue the way you might react, or the way you might think to yourself, no, we're getting a divorce, that belongs to me just as much as it belongs to you, so I also have a say in
Yeah.
what happens with that. So just that's another reason why I understand it, basically.
Yeah.
Would you get a prenup?
No, because I'm married now, so I wouldn't get one. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I was saying before, the values that I had coming into the marriage and how I was taught, no. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Me, I wouldn't get a prenup because I've always been in the mindset of everything I have is for the both of us.
Yeah.
And if I am bringing in wealth into our relationship, that's actually good for us.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of see it. However, if my child, if I've built up
Different
wealth
story.
and my child is wanting to get married to somebody else who is not on the same wealth level as we are, then 100% I would consider it. Equally, I would accept it if my child is marrying up.
Yeah.
I would accept it. I'd be like, listen, shake your hand. I'm definitely with you there because
Yeah.
I understand it completely. But how about you? What do you think about prenups? Are you for them, against them, indifferent about them, or would you get them or not get them? Would love to know. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. And we'd definitely love to hear the different opinions of what you think about prenups. If you're listening on our podcast, leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Would love to hear your review of our podcast as well. But thank you for joining us today. It's been a lovely discussion, and we shall definitely see you soon.